Track 5 of the ultra-anticipated The Other One album by BABYMETAL is Time Wave, and that is the song we're going to be talking about now as part of our track-by-track review playlist, which, linked in the description below. I'm going to stop doing the YouTuber thing and let's talk about the song now. Hi there and welcome back to Japan, where we are talking about Time Wave today, and kind of as I pointed out, obviously I reviewed all the songs they came out, which means I was reviewing a lot of the songs prior to the album coming out, the ones that, if you like, BABYMETAL put front and centre, things like Divine Attack, things like Monochrome, obviously, Light and Darkness. These are songs they put out first of all. Now, they might not all be considered singles, but they're obviously songs that were put out for promotional purposes, so which means we're kind of in an interesting position now, kind of reviewing the other half of the album, in that what we're really doing is looking at the songs that were considered, therefore, the half least worthy of being put front and centre. Now, that's interesting because, of course, a lot of the time that is not necessarily negative. It might just be the songs they don't think are the ones that are going to grab people immediately, but there might be the ones that you think they're going to seep into people's consciousness over time, that are going to be more rewarding upon re-listen. And that's one of the reasons why I've taken so long to really do the review for these other tracks, is because I wanted to give myself time to live with them. And that really brings us on to Time Wave, because Time Wave is an interesting one, being that I didn't actually double check this, but I think it is the longest song on the outside of Metal Kingdom, obviously. It is the longest song on the album otherwise, and also the longest song therefore that was not put out ahead of the album. And so it's probably worth talking about what this song is actually doing with its nearly 5-minute runtime. Now, Time Wave has a certain similarity, I noticed, to Light and Darkness, and that this is a song that is really very much about sort of racking up a kind of almost like an EDM style tension in the verses and in the bridge, building you up to a big chorus that's supposed to pay it off. Now, the interesting thing, of course, being that Time Wave is nearly 5 minutes long, Light and Darkness just over 4 minutes, so, Light and Darkness is only 80% the length of this song. It's only like 4/5. I will stop giving mathematical comparisons, you know what I'm saying. It's nowhere near as long, realistically, as Time Wave is. So the question really is, does it build up more tension than Light and Darkness? How does it really use that time? Well, here we're getting something, whereas, and I do feel this comparison is relevant, whereas Light and Darkness is sort of building up, what you have with Time Wave is something where it's more about this sort of chilled out mellow feel. The lyrics are much quieter. I like that little bit where the whispered vocal comes in. You get a little whispered here like that. There's a lot of English lyrics in here. Not that really relevant to what I'm saying, but it's kind of interesting. You kind of really hear all the words in this one, and then you get a big burst in the chorus. That's clearly what they're going for. However, I've got to be honest, I don't think it is doing it quite as efficiently as Light and Darkness does. So, does it work on a catchy element? Well, in the same way that Time Wave manages to sort of build up a nice tension, have a nice atmosphere, have a nice soundscape, but not quite as well as maybe a song like Light and Darkness, or maybe some other songs in the album, it also manages to be relatively catchy, but again, not quite as much as a lot of the songs around it. And unfortunately, comparison is always something you notice, especially with a song like this, which is pretty much smack bang in the middle of the album. See, one thing that is quite noticeable here is that whereas BABYMETAL are very good at occasionally doing songs which are like super complicated and have like really interesting things, I mentioned in my previous review of Maya, I was talking about things like Tale of the Destinies. They're also very good at doing really simple songs like Our Dama Fever that just don't really have much writing going on, but they just know how to hit you very hard. Now, when we're looking at Time Wave, we're looking at a song which in the verses is very, very simple. Sort of 3 chords max. Choruses, there is more than 2 chords, but realistically there's connecting chords, but effectively we're going between 2 chords. The melodies, again, they allow us to hear Sue's vocals. Sue's performance is lovely, but they're giving her some long notes to really sort of power into, but not a lot to do beyond that. The problem is that what we end up in a situation is we end up with a situation where there are kind of good things going on here, but the writing is not filling in any of the gaps. It feels like it's trying to give you this. I'm not actually listening to anything at the moment, but I'm going to put that back in. I'm not going to cut this. I'm going to leave this in. Hand gestures. Where was I? The writing feels like it's giving you lots of space for things to happen, and in the verses there's a lot of things happening. There's enough things sonically because it's supposed to sound very sparse, very distant. But when you come into the chorus, it's just kind of like relatively loud. It's not like the guitars are suddenly becoming really grungy. They're just kind of louder. The voice, Sue's being able to power her vocals more, but she's not being given a particularly complicated melody to work with. And so you kind of, when you get into the chorus, the sparseness of the writing is much more noticeable, because it's not like that can be excused by, okay, it's supposed to sound sparse like in the verses, or we're going to suddenly now fill the sort of sparse lack of chords and lack of melody complications with other little things, with harmonies. There's not really any of that. So the problem is that I get the feeling that we kind of get a nice build up to a payoff that doesn't really come. The chorus doesn't feel hugely rewarding. It sounds big, but they got better on the album. That's the problem. So where does that leave us? Now, considering that we're always honest on this channel, I always say whether I like or dislike things. Truth is, actually, I enjoyed that song. For a 5-minute song, and everyone knows I like my songs to be concise, to be filled with interesting things, to have purpose. For a 5-minute song that I felt was a little bit light on the writing side, it wasn't boring. It wasn't a problem. Like I said, I've listened to the album quite a few times over now, and it's not one where I'm like in a rush, like, I just want to get through time. No, enough distractions, no. Sorry. It's not like it's a song that I have to just sort of like rush through or anything like that. It's just kind of like, it's there, it's good, but it just doesn't kind of have the excitement of so much of the rest of the album, and it doesn't have the atmosphere of so much of the other parts of the album. It's like, in its moments of sparseness, again, it is interesting, but it's not building up a huge amount of tension. In its moments of chorus, yeah, you got Sue's voice carries it, but there's not a big anthemic feeling making you go, wow, I really want to sing along to this. So it kind of is the definition of a high-end filler track, in that it's not doing anything you can't get anywhere else in the album. It's not particularly one that you'd go to for its own merits, but it's in keeping with the album. It's consistent, it's enjoyable, it's good. It's good filler, basically. And at 5 minutes, it's quite a lot of filler, and it's surprising that it's not tiring at that. But yes, if I was just picking out individual songs, Time Wave would not be one that I would jump to. I do feel its comparison to Light and Darkness is quite noticeable, and Light and Darkness coming a few tracks later is probably a good thing, because it just kind of makes you excited for that track. But anyway, there you go. So this review's been an absolute mess. As always, looking forward to what you guys say in the comments. I'm always particularly interested in songs like this that don't particularly engage me, especially when I say things like, I didn't find this song super catchy. It's always interesting, because catchiness is probably the most subjective thing. So I'm really intrigued to see if there's anyone who actually, for them, this was like the catchy song on the album, or the anthemic song on the album. Really looking forward to seeing if anyone feels that, or indeed if you agree with me, like looking forward to seeing what people say on that front as well. As always, get in the comments, tell me what you think, and I will be continuing. The next song that we're going to be talking about is Believing. Looking forward to talking about that one. So remember, you can subscribe to this channel if you want to check out more, or the playlist for the just track by track of this album is linked below. Usual things, and until I hopefully see you very soon in Japan for the next one of these, for now, ciao ciao.